Now joining us, I jumped the gun a little bit there. Cordell Woodland joins us, Ravens beat reporter, 105.7 The Fan. So let's start right there, man. Cincinnati was a mess last year on the defensive side of the ball. Now Trey Hendrickson's going to hold out. Shamar Stewart hasn't showed up yet. Which team concerns you the most? Obviously, the Ravens are huge favorites once again to win the division. Minus 145 is the price. If anybody does dethrone them this year, who does scare you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure that part out myself, to be honest with you. Obviously, the Browns are the Browns, so barring any miracle, they're going to be in the basement again. I think it obviously comes between the Bengals and the Steelers, and I guess it's more about preference. For me, I do lean slightly more Pittsburgh because I feel like they're a little more balanced across the board. Their offense still isn't going to be great even with Aaron Rodgers there. And look, the Jets were horrible last year, and Rodgers wasn't great, but I don't think Rodgers is done. I don't think Rodgers will look the way that Russell Wilson did in December. So as long as the offense doesn't completely fall off a cliff, I think their defense will be good enough. Their defense has top 8 to top 10 capabilities. They were a top 5 defense last year before the offense completely just gave up on the season. So I think I trust Pittsburgh more just because the both sides of the ball are a little bit more balanced over Cincinnati, who obviously their offense, they can score 80 points on you. There's just a question of can they stop you, and their best defensive player isn't even at camp right now.
Cordell, what do you make of the Ravens tight end dynamic going into the season? Andrews has obviously been the guy. He came into the league with Lamar. Likely's emerged the last couple seasons. And then with the way that the season ended against the Bills, a lot of Ravens fans upset with Andrews, and we're hoping that maybe he would get moved in the offseason, but he's coming back to start the year. He's going to be tight end 1 as the season starts. Do you think it's more 50-50 this season? Is Andrews still the number 1 guy? How do you see that dynamic?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that unfolds myself. I think it's going to be something that ends up happening naturally. I think it'll be kind of a hot hand situation. Mark is coming off a great year. He led all tight ends in touchdown catches with 11, which was also a career high for him last year. But like you mentioned, that playoff game in Buffalo left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And likely all he does is produce. Every time he gets an opportunity, he produces, and he forces you to wonder what it would look like if he got more opportunities. Yeah. And the Ravens are in a unique situation where their entire tight end room is entering the last year of their deal. So they do have to figure out what they have in these guys and which direction they want to go. The signs to me probably point more towards likely because you see the potential that he has, and he's like 4 years younger than Mark. But Mark is still an elite tight end, I believe. I think the Ravens can trade him because they understand their best roster this year involves Mark Andrews and likely on the team. In terms of who ends up being tight end 1 when it's all said and done, I just really think they'll use those 17 games during the season to decide that.
We're talking with Cordell Woodland right now here on BetMGM Tonight. Ryan Horvat, PJ Glasser. Last night I was talking about how I just want Lamar to have a true number 1. I like Bateman and the pieces that he has and Mark Andrews, but I forgot that they did bring in a 5-time Pro Bowler and DeAndre Hopkins. How much do you think he has left in the tank, man? Because I think we all remember what he looked like in the postseason last year. Looked a little washed, but now he's got a full offseason. He should be healthy. What do you think he could contribute this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the same situation as it usually is in Baltimore. Really, it hasn't been that way for the last maybe 2 to 3 seasons or so. But you're used to Baltimore kind of starving for a wide receiver. They're not in that place anymore. And there was a time where if they signed a D-Hop, even at this stage of his career, you're looking for him to be wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 type of guy. That's not really where he is right now. I mean, if you're just talking about options for Lamar, right now Hopkins might be the 5th or 6th option. I might put Justice Hill ahead of him out of the backfield, to be honest with you, on third down. So I just think Hopkins has a role for this team, which is to be dependable on third downs, to be kind of that veteran in the locker room for these young receivers that you mentioned, and to go make a couple of plays, to be that contested catch receiver he's been his whole career. He's not about separation anymore. He's still a savvy guy, and I think last year, sure, he's older. He's not going to be what he used to be, but I think it's always tough to be a receiver or anybody, specifically receiver, traded at the deadline in the NFL in the middle of the season, and you join a team and you're kind of jumping on board a moving train right now. I just think that's incredibly tough to do even for somebody like him.
Cordell, there was an ESPN article that came out today where they power ranked all 32 teams and all the rosters, and they gave the Ravens the number one spot. So, two-part question. Do you agree with that? Do you think they, on paper, have the best team in the NFL? And if there was an area of weakness for this roster, what do you think it is?
Yeah, right now it's tough for me to say that they don't. I mean, you look at pretty much every position group, they have a big-name player there. I mean, it's everywhere. So I do think they have, if not the best team on paper in the league, no less than second. I mean, maybe you could still put the Eagles ahead of them, but they had a lot of turnover on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see how that ends up impacting them. But I do think the Ravens are elite. Now, in terms of weakness, it may sound crazy, but with a team like this, their glaring weakness to me is special teams. I mean, and that was a huge weakness for them last year. You remember they moved on from Justin Tucker, who was thought of to be the greatest kicker of all time, and even he had been trending down the last couple of seasons. But to now have a rookie in that spot with a team this good, every kick is going to matter, and it usually does. So I don't want to make it seem like it doesn't, but you don't want to have a team like this and you're losing because of a rookie kicker. So he didn't have that great of a camp as well. So I'm curious to see what that looks like.
In 2023, I was a big fan of Keaton Mitchell. He was averaging like 7 yards per carry. Then he had the knee injury. Now it's been about a year and a half. What kind of role do you think he has in the offense? Because you brought up Justice Hill, who obviously is going to catch some balls out of the backfield. I don't think Derrick Henry, even at 31 years old, is going anywhere. Guy's a freak. What do you think Mitchell could bring to the table?
Yeah, Mitchell was that kind of home run hitter for them 2 years ago in his rookie year. I mean, he was kind of a godsend for them because guys like Dobbins at the time was hurt again and Gus was wearing down. And Keaton kind of gave them something that they hadn't had in the backfield, which is somebody other than Lamar that can take it 80 yards up the field. So obviously now the backfield looks different. You have Derrick Henry, who's coming off another great year, and I don't anticipate Henry slowing down. I really don't. Justice Hill, he was so good for them out of the backfield as a receiver, as a pass blocker on third downs. He even had some chunk runs in there. Justice Hill is just a football player, and they loved him a lot. So I do think Keaton will be a part of the mold. I think he's going to get a lot of his run on special teams. He's fighting to be their kick returner this year, and he's talked about wanting to have the kind of that Devin Hester impact back there, and he has those capabilities. So we'll see what that looks like. But as far as offensively, they're still going to want to ride Derrick Henry, obviously. But now with a healthy backfield, a healthy running back room, maybe they do spread it out a little bit more, especially in games where they have a comfortable lead.
Cordell, what have been early impressions of the first-round pick out of Georgia, Malaki Starks? Because, as you know, that's really where the season changed for the Ravens. It's certainly where the defense changed, was when they plugged Ardarius Washington into that safety spot. He gets hurt in the offseason. They're hoping to get him back later on in the year. But Starks is in an important position back there with Kyle Hamilton. What have been the early thoughts on him up to this point?
Yeah, he seems like a pro, honestly. He kind of blends in with those guys out there. He's coming from Georgia, where he's been a day one starter as a true freshman out there, and he's played all over the field. So he's used to that, to being that kind of that chess piece that he will be here in Baltimore. And he's playing alongside maybe the best chess piece in football right now in Kyle Hamilton. So the Ravens being able to use Kyle the way that they want and also have Malaki back there that can do some of the same things and still show some of that range on the back end, I think he fits in like a glove for them. He had a really strong camp, and even when you talk to him, he just seems really seasoned. So I'm excited to see what he looks like as they get into the preseason games and start to put the pads on a week or so into training camp, because so far, and there's not a lot to go off of with minicamp and OTAs, but so far he's checked all the boxes.
Who's one player on either side of the ball that you think could have a breakout season?
Breakout season, Nate Wiggins is probably one to watch. Second-year corner from Clemson over there. I mean, he's going to he's starting from day one this year. And last year, he got better as the year went on, more and more aggressive. So I think this year the turnovers are a big theme for the Ravens defense this season as a whole. But I think if they are going to rack up on the turnovers this year, Nate Wiggins is going to be a big part of that. On the offensive side of the ball, I mean, likely is kind of the low-hanging fruit there because he's in a contract year, and you kind of wonder if this will be the year that they start to lean more into him and start to lean a little way away from Mark Andrews. But, look, Mark could be so good that it makes it tough for them to do that. But I just think Isaiah Likely is oozing with talent. That dude, I think he could be an elite tight end in this league if he got tight end one type of opportunities. So I'm curious to see what it looks like for him this year. But you know how these players seem to take it to another level when the money's on the line. So I think that could be the case for him.
I'm totally with you, Cordell. I wish they'd give him that number one spot. Finish the sentence, Cordell. The Ravens break through and make it to the Super Bowl if what happens?
If Lamar is Superman in the playoffs, and maybe Superman is too extreme because the way that this team is set up, he doesn't have to be. Yeah. So I just think it's more about winning football because at times, to be honest with you, I think trying to be Superman has gotten them in trouble. I remember at the AFC Championship game where they lost to the Chiefs and watching that second half, it was the most boring second half for that Chiefs offense. But that was winning football. And last year, same thing with the Bills in the second half, boring. But they're not going to turn the ball over. They're okay with the punt. They're okay with the third down throwaway. That has been something that maybe Lamar and the Ravens haven't figured out yet, how to kind of take an L on this play, on this drive, and play the field position game a little bit. Instead, it seems like when they're not playing with the lead in the playoffs, they seem to get tense, they seem to get tight, and they start making mistakes. So I think maybe kind of to change my answer a little bit, maybe being more boring in the postseason. Being boring could be good for them to not hurt themselves, not turn the ball over, and play the field position game. They're good enough to beat anybody, I think.
Yeah, I had so much money on them against the Chiefs a couple of years ago, man. I still want Todd Monken thrown in prison, averaging almost 7 yards per carry, and we're dropping Lamar back 40 times for whatever reason at home with that defense. Last question for me. I'm a big Green Bay fan, man, so I thought that there was going to be a chance that maybe Jaire would be back, but I'm happy to see him go with Lamar. College teammates, remember how excited they were when they saw each other get drafted? What do you think he brings to the table? Because you talked about Wiggins and Kyle Hamilton being the ultimate chess piece. What do you think Jaire brings to the table?
I mean, elite talent. Talent. When Jaire's healthy, he's an elite corner in this league. The track record is there. And the Ravens, they really benefited from that relationship that he has with Lamar. I mean, they flat out said it. Lamar was the guy that kind of helped bring him there. He took less money to come to Baltimore than he could have gotten elsewhere. And I think that's because he understands what this team is capable of doing this year. And if he balls out this year, he'll make himself probably a lot of money somewhere else next year because the Ravens won't have it for him. But I think Jaire brings kind of that aggressive personality that they're looking for. I talked about them wanting to get back to the turnovers. He can be that. I mean, they should blanket the field with the secondary that they're putting out there. They should blanket the field. And this is a defense that was second in the league in sacks last year. So I just think Jaire will kind of bring some of that aggressive mentality that maybe this defense needs.
Yeah. Cordell, great stuff, man. Great work. We'll do it again soon.